on this episode of The Wandering Crow. There's this sound, like this disembodied voice of this woman screaming at the top of her lungs.
How long was it going on? Where did they find this dress? You know, they just bring so many questions. Like, immediately reminded me of, like, dryads. We're supernatural.
Supernatural, paranormal, high strangeness, aliens. That's what we are. I decided that the Rusalka was the next obvious choice of candidate to talk about. On some occasions, she'd even tickle them to death as she laughed.
Cute. And turns out she's a bear.
Now, she's sleeping with the fish.
There is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept looking at it, pecking at it until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is dead Crow now. Join us as we attempt to look through the wandering crow's eye to find the gateway to the supernatural, to seek to know the unknowable mysteries of creation. Welcome to the Wandering Crow podcast.
Welcome back, listeners, to The Wandering Crow. I'm Amanda.
This is Cameron.
And we are so excited to be coming back to Sirens 2, the second part of Sirens 1. And where we left off...
In case you didn't know.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, or you're just out of order. There is an episode that comes before this. And so we last time talked about La Llorona. And if you'll recall, I talked about one of my very favorite shows, Paranormal, Caught on Camera. And they have... in one of their episodes, they have this story about somewhere in South America, I want to say Mexico, not 100% sure, in a very busy, crowded city, there's this sound, like this disembodied voice of this woman screaming at the top of her lungs, and it's like, I can't even understand what she's saying, but it is like so angry and upset and like this vicious screaming, and it goes on. And there's neighbors crowded around on the street corner, like looking around, looking confused. Lots of people have their phones up, making recordings. Like it's crazy. And they call the police. Like someone is screaming, something is going on. Somebody needs to come check this out. So the police come, they check it out, they investigate, they look around buildings. Like there is an abandoned building nearby. So they go around the building. They don't see any person. They can't figure out where the screaming is coming from. And, this goes on for months. And then finally, they follow up with the person who submitted this clip, who submitted this video. And the person says, well, after about 6 months, people really were getting very tired of this. The police, at their wits' end, they found this gown, this old gown that was there. And they, I guess, had tried everything else. So they burned the gown. And after they burned the gown, the noises never happened again. And you had some questions about that. And now I don't recall what your question was. But that really... something about that bothered you or intrigued you. I don't know.
Yeah, there was no murder investigation. There was no maybe even trying to bless the gown. They went straight to fire, which is a purification rite, but that destroys evidence.
I mean, yeah.
So they do, and I wanted to know, like, did it stop immediately? How long was it going on? Where did they find this dress? They just bring so many questions, and they burn the dress, so there's no real finding out now.
No.
Who did the dress belong to?
No, and it's really bizarre. It's this crazy mystery, and I don't know. It seemed like, if I recall correctly, and I may be misremembering, but it seems like they had some priests come out and try to bless with holy water. Like they had tried a variety of things. The police came. They couldn't find a person actually. Like from the police's perspective, we've got this disembodied screaming. We don't see any kind of murder site. We don't see signs of foul play. We don't see anything that can be physically investigated. So from like...
No blood, no nothing. Okay.
Huh?
No blood or anything on the dress, probably. If there's no foul play, then that means...
I'm assuming a lot here.
The dress is probably fine.
There's not a lot that's actually said about it. But I'm assuming from the perspective of the police, if they didn't find those things, and all they've got is this white nightgown just laying there. And there's, I assume, no blood. I don't know. And
if they called a priest, you would expect that they probably at least went over it with a UV light.
I don't...
To see if there was any kind of bodily fluids on the dress.
I mean, we can...
Which would...
Oh, go ahead.
Be signs of foul play.
We can speculate wildly. I don't know. I can only tell you what was in the clip. So...
It just brings a lot of questions. You know, that was...
And why did the fire work?
It sounds like that wasn't their go-to, but that seems like a drastic measure.
It had been going on for months, apparently, and I don't know exactly what all else they had tried, but it seems like they were at their wits' end. And the neighbors were freaked out. It was just, you know, you could see it. Like, the tension on the road was palpable. Because at one point, you know, there's someone who's doing the recording, who submitted this recording, pans around. Like, they look at this abandoned building that's, like, fenced off, that they think the screaming is coming from. And then they turn around and look back at all of the people who are just nervous. These people are nervous. People are pacing. They're chatting with each other in kind of hushed voices. Like, people were really freaked out, taking it seriously, it seemed like. And, you know, they weren't messing around. They called the police right away. The police couldn't find anything, couldn't figure out where the screaming was coming from. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, if you're dealing with something that's going on for months like that, I can understand how you'd get to, like, let's try this. You know, like, we haven't tried this yet.
Especially if it's in a place where the La Llorona is, that's like commonplace. That's like a common local lore.
Yeah.
So they probably, like, that was in the back of their mind the whole time too.
Yeah. I mean, they're human. The police are human.
I would have still, though, like, I've heard of it in America or the United States, where they will hire a psychic as a last-ditch effort before they burn the dress, you know?
I mean, who's to say they didn't?
Case closed.
Maybe it was a psychic who told them to do that. I don't know.
Maybe.
There's just a lot that wasn't said. There's a lot that we just don't know about that video. So, La Llorona, we'll do a little recap. We talked about her a little bit. So, La Llorona, or did we? Did we bring her up?
Well, I don't think we did. I think we briefly touched on her.
What she is. I just talked about the story. So La Llorona, there's a lot about her. This is a great way to let's get into it. This is excellent. Let me find my notes. We still have, like,
AKA Mary.
There she is. La Llorona, which means the weeping woman. She is a South American spirit, and she is alive and well. You know, metaphysically.
Spiritually.
Yeah. In the minds and the hearts of the South American people. And even in the deserts here in the Southwest, you know, I think that there's still stories about
Arizona,
her.
We have tons of sightings of women in white.
Yeah.
All around the canal. You hear about it all the time.
Mm-hmm. And the spirit of La Llorona, what she is and there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of variations of stories about her. It's the same with the Rusalka. In fact, it's basically the same. But the story that I had heard about La Llorona is she's this beautiful woman who suffers from a little bit of some narcissism, she's a little bit full of herself. She falls in love with a man who falls wildly in love with her, and they have kids together, and something happens in that relationship. And in one of the stories, he loves the kids more than he loves her. In another story, he leaves them and just abandons them altogether. But ultimately, La Llorona, for whatever reason, determines that the correct solution is to murder her children. So La Llorona is this creature who has killed her own children. And in a lot of the stories, after she's done it in this fit of rage, she's this very impulsive, impetuous person. She kills the kids because she's got kind of that mindset that whatever it is in her mind, it's less important than she is. But after she kind of comes out of her rage, realizes what she's done, oh my God, I killed my kids, and weeps for them and suffers intense guilt about it and kills herself shortly after, realizing that she can't live with what she's done, this horrible, terrible action. And as a result, her punishment is to live forever with this guilt of what she's done and to never be reunited with the children. And so La Llorona is this archetype of the most evil. I mean, what in your mind is more evil than a mother killing her own children? Like, than a parent killing the very ones that they brought into the world. I think that's idea is so horrific that alone carries with it a lot of
And they were
baggage.
like around the ages of 8 and 13,
They were little,
something like that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3 kids, and
the story I heard, so all the motives are the same, but so she was this beautiful woman, the most beautiful in her village, and in the town, a nobleman came in, and he was instantly drawn to her. Mm-hmm. He fell in love with her, and she was very vain, and she demanded this and that from him. Eventually, he got fed up, and he cheated on her while they were still married, and she witnessed him cheating on her next to the river. And so, very upset, she took the kids out the next day and she drowned them in that same river where she had witnessed him do this thing.
Wow.
And then when they were dead, that's when she sort of, oh my God, finally, like, moment of clarity, and she drowned herself. And it was because of that realization that it wasn't all about her, that she now walks the earth and she is in search of her children, but still being so self-absorbed as she always was in life, she will try to find your kids and claim that they're hers.
Yes.
And she will take them into the river.
Yes. So, and that's the thing, is that in some cases she's said to so she's a predatory spirit now, and she preys on others. She's malevolent. She's either a harbinger of death or she's the direct cause of death. And in some stories, she is there as a siren type creature to seduce men into the river and drowns them in revenge. But in a lot of cases, she's actually after the children. So it kind of depends on where, but she is considered to be a kidnapper of children who are never seen again. And she's very dangerous for children.
And it's actually been explained for like SIDS situations. They'll hear crying and they will blame La Llorona for their kids dying because they stopped breathing. It's like they drowned, but they're on solid land. They're in their own rooms.
That's so sad.
So it's not unheard of for like sleep paralysis to be explained as like, this is her. In some cases.
Yeah. And I have a story that I found on Reddit. This is from Knusism. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's KNUSCIM is the Redditor. And they posted this about a year ago. They said and I'm trying to remember if they felt like it was La Llorona. Oh, someone else was doing a project on La Llorona and wanted some stories about it. So this person posted in response. This person says, I still remember mine and the ones overheard throughout the years. I'm from Mexico, a small little town I was born in. I can't even pronounce it. I moved here to the U.S. when I was 5. The house my family owns in Mexico is right next to a river, and there's a bridge from what I can remember. I woke up one morning and had bled from my nose, and it had covered my face in blood. I woke up my cousins to take me outside to wash my face, as we didn't have plumbing inside the house. My cousins would mess with me outside. This one time, she locked me outside as I washed my face covered in dry blood. Then I heard her crying, yelling. I looked up to my left and saw here across on the other side of the bridge in full white, this woman. I quickly ran to the door, banging, crying, and yelling. Then my cousin started to realize what was happening. I don't really remember anything after that. It was as if the lady in white was glowing, but she was this noticeable figure that was a little bit blurry to my eyes. I've experienced paranormal things here and there, and I've read about it and many things regarding it, but that night I will never, ever forget. Every now and then, I hear the stories from my coworkers, as I do work with people from Mexico. They have said they have seen her, have heard her, and some have followed her. They always said that she is a face of a horse. From what I was,
Wow.
yeah, from what I was told.
I haven't.
You haven't?
I never heard that part.
I've heard that actually one of the other spirits has a face of a horse too, if I remember. From what
That's
I was
pretty
told,
crazy.
she threw her kids in a river out of jealousy due to her husband leaving her. She threw herself in the river as well, but was not forgiven and cursed to walk the earth in torment. Today, I'm still not willing to sleep near a river or a pond. It's just crazy. Whether you believe this or not, that's the experience that I have to offer. So that's the story. All right, so what did you think of that story?
You know what's wild though is the horse face.
Why does that strike you so much?
Before I knew about La Llorona, I used to see like a woman that was covered in like. So here's the thing that doesn't match though. It still doesn't match. Tattered white dress, but like dirty, and it looked like it was covered in blood.
Okay.
And the one thing that I said, well, but it's not La Llorona because she has a horse face
Oh.
in the wash,
Oh.
in like my dreams and stuff. Again, my dreams.
Okay.
And I tell my friends that I was like, I get real bad vibes from that wash. I've never seen anything in there except for the shadow that when I first moved in. Remember I was telling you about the Spitfire head?
Mm-hmm.
But in my dreams, I would see this woman in like a tattered white dress and a horse face. And it looked like she was covered in like the dress was covered in blood. That still doesn't match La Llorona, but it's just weird to me that the white dress and the horse face. And there's no water near our house, so that doesn't match either.
Yeah.
It's something that struck out to me,
Yeah. Well, that is weird. When were you having those dreams about that?
Sophomore year in high school, all the way until basically graduation.
Well, that's crazy.
And it was right around junior year that I saw the Morgan for the first time. And that was completely different.
Yeah.
But that was also around the time that I started really playing with like the dark side of the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe it kind of makes sense that I was drawing those things in.
Maybe it does. I want to say La Llorona is not the only one who sometimes, like, this person who says that is, from what I recall, like, I feel like popularly, this person, I don't know. It's hard to say. Is it just this one person who's saying that she had the head of a horse, or is it a lot of people who are saying that? But I do feel like
That's the first time I've heard it, but
I've
I don't know.
seen it elsewhere. I did so much research, you guys. I've got 25 pages of notes. I don't remember where I saw that. Like, I've been face deep in my computer for quite a while. The only thing I can think of is, you've got the legends of the Selkies, and then you've also got the Kelpie, which is a shape-shifting water horse that kind of matches. And then you've got these other creatures that are not human-like, that do also have weird horse-like heads. The Bunyip and the Ahuizotl.
The Bunyip. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to. It's an interesting detail that isn't completely out of line with some of the other accounts. So it's just interesting to think about. And it's weird that you had a dream about a horse-headed woman in the desert. That's very strange to me.
That, it was to me too, but like I didn't draw it to La Llorona because it's nowhere near water.
Right.
It's a wash, right? But not water.
Yeah.
She wasn't crying. She was more so maybe wailing, moaning, groaning. Looked like she wanted to get to me, but couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
She's physically incapable. But I don't know. That's weird.
Well,
that's the first time I've ever heard of somebody else's account where a horse-faced woman.
Yeah, that's a weird connection. That is a very interesting connection. Here's what I propose, because we do want to do a part 3 of this episode, except it's going to move from water-based to land-based. If you're still in for it, let's look for that. Let's see if we can find horse-headed female spirits of land and see what we find. That would be really interesting to see if we can correlate that a little bit further. But to kind of get back into, so of the water spirits, I did want to bring up, I have this another really interesting story. This one is from poster Posselt's envelope. Posselt's envelope. POSSELTSENVEL0PE. So this person says, when I was 15, I saw a shapeshifter. When I was 15, a new development was made over an existing cypress swamp. I had actually been in the swamp before with hip waders with my dad and saw owls and gators. It was really cool. Anyway, the development had a really cool pool, and at the time, it was so empty that my friends and I would routinely go to the pool at night and the hot tub. And we'd maybe bring back some girls and a few beers. One night, me and 2 of my friends were going to the pool. We were completely and utterly sober, this person says, all in caps. As we hopped the fence and approached the pool, my friend let out a laugh. Hey, there's a duck in the pool. Sure enough, I walked closer. There's a duck. Then I see it dive under. The duck began to swim to the other side underwater, but something was different. The figure looked to elongate to maybe 8 foot long and snake-like under the water. It began to get odd because we were staring at it for like 2 minutes and it swam slowly from one side of the pool to the other. I couldn't fathom what I was seeing because the duck was now really, really long and slowly swimming. Then it happened. The snake, or whatever it was, stopped at the steps of the pool. What emerged was a woman with black hair and jet black eyes. The hair was very long. My friend began to scream in terror. Real terror. Not an, oops, I'm scared, but a, holy fuck, let's get out of here, primal scream. As he screamed, I felt my heart quicken and I maintained eye contact with the figure. It almost looked confused, and it was motionless. I was too scared. We hopped out of the gate and sprinted away. When we turned back, we saw the figure hop the gate and then run into the part of the cypress swamp that they had not developed over. That was the end of that. It was the only paranormal experience I have had that I can't explain. I was at a bar one time and told the story to a very, quote-unquote, paranormal expert, and she claimed what I may have seen was a water nymph of the swamp. Regardless, I plan on contacting my friends from 15 years ago and asking them if they still feel what we experienced was real. That's the end of the story. I really like the paranormal expert who mentions the nymphs because that's amazing. And I was really kind of touched by the fact that the figure seemed confused. Like, it wasn't really sure where it was. Like, wait, where am I right now? What is this place? And then
why are there people here?
Yeah, why is there people here? What is this water? Where am I? Like, almost as if, and I am making a little bit of a leap, but like, hey, wait a minute, where's my swamp? And then it hopped the fence and then ran to the swamp. And then that's when they never saw it again. It makes me feel like that is a water spirit. A water nymph might be a really good term for that. I really thought it was very interesting because
immediately reminded me of like dryads.
Oh, tell me about a dryad. What's a dryad?
Dryads are just like woodland spirits. So like a swamp, they're saying that it could have been a water nymph. Basically the same thing. Protector of the of nature. So it showing up in this place that used to be a swamp and is now just a regular pool. Yeah, it would be confused.
Yeah. Isn't a dryad a tree spirit? Don't they live in the trees? Or am I confused?
Typically, yes.
Oh, okay.
But I think you might be right. I'm just conflating it as a forest spirit, but yeah, I think you might be right.
I don't know. We would definitely need to look that up. But I mean, yeah, so it's the same kind of, but I hear what you're saying though. It's like this not quite fae, but yeah, kind of fae spirit of nature.
of that specific territory.
Right. Yeah. And this one was confused because, wait a minute, my home has changed. What it reminded me of when I read it was a Naga. And Naga spirit is all over the place. It's an idea that exists in India. It's an idea that exists in a variety of other Asian religious traditions. And the first place I ever heard about the Naga was in Mongolian shamanism. A Naga is kind of a serpentine spirit that is also very female, that is wrathful. And so like in Americanized modern neo-shamanism, the spirits are kind of like this hippy-dippy, sweet, peaceful, loving kind of creatures, which in other shamanism traditions is absolute garbage. It's just nonsense, because with the spirits that they are working with, and I'm talking about long lineages of shamanism that goes back hundreds of years, they can trace it back through their ancestors, through the family line. The spirits that they work with are considered quote unquote wrathful. Like they can help you out, but they also aren't going to fuck around and just be around there to like forgive your mistakes and just love you unconditionally. That's not what they're
not pushovers. Yeah.
No. Yeah, they're not messing around, and they can be very mean, and they can be very vengeful, and if you haven't kept your promise, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. And that's how I was introduced to the concept of the Naga, is this wrathful, water, demigod kind of spirit that is very, very powerful. And if you keep your promises and you do the things you say you're going to do, can very much be a friend to you and can help empower you. But working with the Nagas can be very tricky because you have to be very disciplined. You have to be really on it and do the things that you say you're going to do. And the Nagas, when I try to look it up and learn more about them, the Nagas are they're kind of half serpent, half humanoid, kind of netherworld spirits that can sometimes look fully female and sometimes not, but they're kind of both, this female and snake kind of spirit. And so the fact that what they saw kind of started as a duck and then shape-shifted and became this crazy serpent thing and then became this woman really reminded me of that. Like, wow, that sounds like a Naga. And having talked to, I know a woman who is a Mongolian shaman, and I'm not saying that, and she doesn't say it. She has been recognized by her people, by her clan. She has been trained her whole entire life. She is a legit actual shaman. She said that when she came to the U.S., the spirits were very, very different here, and she was actually quite frightened because she wasn't really sure how to interact with them, but that there were Nagas here too, and that she's met Nagas in lots of other countries that she's traveled to.
What does she mean by they were different?
She didn't explain, and there are things that she just won't elaborate.
Was it kind of like what I said, where it's almost like the forest spirits are more severe when they're actually like angry with you, but they're also like more helpful?
What she implied was that the spirits of the forests here in the U.S., and I don't think she went to South America, I think it was the U.S., were angrier and meaner. Like,
yes.
So, and
like they can be helpful, but if they don't like you, you're dead. Like all of our stories talk about cannibalism, the constant hunger of winter, the fires of the land. We have all of those different lores. We don't really have too many of the Keebler elf variety there.
Except people say that they do, like...
And they do. Some of them do, because they've been working with the spirits for their entire lives. And so they've built a rapport. If you're just walking into it, though, it's different.
Well, and I wondered about that.
It's more standoffish.
I wondered if it was because she was new to the U.S. She'd never been here before. She didn't really know the land very well.
You resonate with the territory you're from, which is why I had a better luck with the desert spirits than I did with the forest spirits.
But then, she talked about going to Germany. She talked about she was in Norway, and she said that those spirits were fine. She didn't have an issue. So in retrospect, thinking about it, I wonder if it's because of all
Maybe
of the
it's just this hemisphere.
disrespect that's been going on
Yeah.
here, and the disrespect to the native people who were the caretakers of this land. And there's just a lot of really pissed off spirits here because of all of the very recent history.
Okay, so you mentioned that it was a lot of recent history, and we both came to a conclusion that that was true, but we did go into a bit of a tangent. So we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll add some of the snippets. Who knows?
That is a full 16 minutes of tangent, in fact, that we've cut so far. So we'll see. But it's important. I think it's an important social topic. And
We both ended up agreeing in different ways.
Yeah. I think that we have enough friends and enough respect for the people here that we agree that the recent history is really fucked up. But I think maybe that's a podcast for a different day.
That's a different topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth going over. I mean, it's pretty important stuff, but it's not supernatural. It's just awful and horrifying.
It's just
in its own way.
Humans being their absolute most evil.
More
evil
if this
than
were
anything we've talked about so far.
If this were just a horror podcast, that would be good. But
yeah. Anyway,
we're supernatural.
Supernatural, paranormal, high strangeness, aliens. That's what we are. Okay, so I'm going to move on now. So we're talking about the Naga. And so I wanted to get into, from the Naga, I decided that the Rusalka was the next obvious choice of candidate to talk about. The Rusalka is a Russian creature, and it is from the word called the Vodyanitsa, which means she from the water. In the Ukraine, she's also called Mavka, which is interesting. I've heard that word recently. So initially, it was thought, so a guy named Vladimir Prop thinks that the Rusalka was actually a name that we used to refer to, that came from the pagan Slavic peoples who linked these creatures with fertility and didn't consider them to be evil. That's before the 19th century. When they would come out of the water, they would come out during the spring and they would transfer life-giving moisture to the fields and would help nurture the crops. So they were these really good spirits. They were part of the land and they were part of the cycle of life. And the pagans actually, maybe, I'm not sure if they worshiped them, but they were important. They were considered important and not evil. It was around the 19th century that Rusalka started to become kind of this dangerous creature who wasn't really alive, and she was associated with an unclean spirit. So the story is, she typically was a young woman who either committed suicide by drowning due to an unhappy marriage, or she may have been jilted by a lover, or she was abused and victimized by a much older husband. Or they were violently drowned against their will, especially after becoming pregnant with an unwanted child. And they are doomed to live out their designated time on Earth as the Rusalka. Not all in the lore, not in all Slavic lore, was the Rusalka necessarily linked to a death from water. Now, the undead Rusalka is not always malevolent. Sometimes she could be allowed to die in peace if her death was avenged, like if she had met her end because of murder or something. If there was some justice that was had after the fact, then she actually would be allowed to basically leave and go to heaven. But the ones that are evil, her main job, the main thing that she does is she lures in young men. She seduces them either with her looks or her voice, as in that song clip that we did for the first episode, the first Siren episode, and then she drowns them. So it's said that she lures them into the depths of the waterways where she'd entangle their feet with her long hair and submerge them so they would drown. Her body was said to instantly become very slippery, and she would not allow the victim to cling to her in order to reach the surface. She'd
Just
wait
like in
until
The
they
Hobbit.
drowned. She'd wait until they drowned. On some occasions, she'd even tickle them to death as she laughed.
Cute.
Yeah. And so, in some accounts, she actually was able to change her appearance in order to match the tastes of the men she was trying to lure.
Oh, that's not fair. We'd fall for that every time. Are you kidding?
Every time. She's the perfect woman. Who cares if she's in the water?
Oh, she's going to kill me. Oh, well, had a good run.
What I loved about this, are you ready for this? So
All right.
in the lore, the hair of the Rusalka can either be, usually, fair, meaning like blondish, black, or sometimes greenish or completely green. Who does that remind you of?
Baba Yaga.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Jenny Greenteeth. So it's really interesting that we've circled back around, and now we've got this green-haired creature of the water.
Well, now here's the question. Do we think that these are the same being or the same species?
I think I'm leaning more toward species.
Me too.
I'm more leaning toward like category of, I think there might be many different entities which fall in this category.
You can run across one that won't recognize you from the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there's something here that is multicultural and that is separated not even by time, just space.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that these stories are all happening about the same time actually leads credence to it being multiple of the same being.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And what's interesting is even within the folklore, the Russian folklore, there are 4 very famous and very distinct Rusalkai personalities. So there's one called Dana, and she actually was drowned by her stepmother, who was very jealous of her beauty. And, she's got her own whole little story. There's another one called Kostroma. She's a spring-summer ritual character and fertility goddess. And according to the myth, she actually drowned herself in a lake when it was discovered that her new husband was actually her brother. After that, there's another one called Marina. She's actually a widow. She's a young widow who drowned herself in the river and actually fell in love with a neighbor. And then the 4th distinct personality is called Moryana, and she's of the sea. She's the daughter of the Morskoy Tsar, and so she was like a princess, basically. She's considered very beautiful. When she's seen, she's a tall maiden with disheveled hair that looked like sea foam. And I wanted to point to that, too, because remember, Peggy Powler, who we talked about in the first episode, also often had sea foam as a warning that she was in the water. There would be this large accumulation of sea foam. And here we have this Russian Rusalka character, a distinct one of many, who also has this sea foam hair. So, yeah, I think that even in the lore, there is evidence to suggest this is not just one creature who's showing up over and over again in different places. It's multiples. They have even their own names and their own stories sometimes.
I get quiet because it's like I'm listening to a podcast. Andy, you're doing a good job.
Thank you. That feels really good. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's great. That draws a perfect line to Jenny Greenteeth, the Rusalka being the creature from Lord of the Rings, which I think was based off of something else entirely.
Well, that guy.
No, that's
who
great.
Was that?
The nymph, the water nymph. No, that's a water nymph that just hates you.
She just wants you to die. So that's hilarious, Cameron. She just hates you. Yeah. Yes, she does. That's correct.
You're in her territory, and you weren't invited.
You were not
I'm
supposed
sorry.
to be there.
You have to die.
So here's another one. I think it really fits with the Rusalka, and we could probably, and after this, it moves into something a little bit different, my notes. But the Lorelei is a lot like the Rusalka, except she's from Germany. And she's this really beautiful woman who threw herself into the Rhine River in despair over a lover who was faithless. And after she did that, she transformed into a siren. She was exactly a siren, they call her, who lured fishermen to destruction. The myth is associated with a large rock named the Lorelei, which stands on the bank of the Rhine River near Sankt I can't pronounce this. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna try.
All right. Believe in you.
There's a lot of vowels. Near Sankt
Doubt.
Gorshausen, Germany. I think.
Can you pronounce that in one word though?
No, there's two words. So Sankt is one word, and Gorshausen. Oh, that's probably what it. Gorshausen.
Okay.
Germany.
Wait. Send that to me in Discord. I'm gonna verify.
Gorshausen. That's what I think it is.
You might be right. That sounds pretty German.
That sounds pretty German, right? I got there. Why can you not?
Worcestershire sauce.
Do you see it?
Well, there's no umlauts. There's nothing.
Well, it's an English written article, so anyway, so it's this rock, right? And
it's definitely Gorshausen.
Yeah, I think I nailed it eventually.
I think you did.
After like the 10th try, I got there. Anyway,
it almost fucks you up more that it's not got any umlauts or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, you pronounce it right. It right. All right,
I got
good.
there. Okay. So it's this rock, and according to the story, she sits on this rock called the Lorelei, which is how she got her name. And she sings, and she lures the fishermen close to her, and then they hit the rock, and then they die. And the currents are supposed to be really treacherous. The river itself is not very safe, and it's another place where men die a lot there. So I think in popular culture, they attribute the story of the Lorelei came because so many fishermen were dying there. I posit so many fishermen are dying there because the spirit lives there and makes it treacherous.
Allow me to make this narcissistic once again. So I was told about the Lorelei specifically because I date a lot of women named Laura. I'm kind of like Ron Swanson in that way.
Tammy.
I was told about that. The Lorelei.
Really?
And she will take the form of any woman you like, and she will disrupt your being, and she'll what did they actually say? Okay. You shouldn't date any more Lauras. They're going to fuck up your life.
All right. Well, I mean, you got to break the cycle, Cameron.
Maybe it's
some karmic pattern that you developed because you messed with some girl named Laura, and she ended up becoming the Lorelei in a previous life. Maybe that was you.
I guess. Man.
That was quite the leap. Anyway, so that's Lorelei, and she's the last of the mostly human that I have to talk about. In my research, what I came to next was the Selkie of Irish and Gaelic lore, Irish, Scottish, Gaelic lore. Cameron, do you know about the Selkies? What have you heard about Selkies?
Well, most recently, the Selkie was commented on in the... Okay, so most recently, Selkies have been referenced in the great factual story of Fantasia that takes place in the far distant future, where the king falls in love with a Selkie that actually is able to turn into a bear.
Oh. Fantasia?
Disenchantment. Sorry. Disenchantment is the story.
I have never heard of this. This is a written work, or what is this?
It's animated.
Oh, okay. Well, I never heard of that. Well, that's interesting, and it seems like the Selkies are going to get a new life, but it's an old story from a very long time ago, and it kind of is a little bit more in the realm of mermaid, and it follows the same kind of feeling as interactions with other fae folk, in that, at least in the case of Selkies, they're not always bad. They can actually be pretty good. It just sort of depends on the individual.
I'm sorry.
What?
I'm trolling you.
What?
I'm trolling you. Like, so in Disenchantment, so the king is starting to get a little bit delusional, and
Okay.
he is longing for love, and
Okay.
he goes out on a hunting trip where he finds a woman that just devours his game in front of him, and he falls in love with her,
Okay.
and it turns out she's a bear that disguises herself as a woman.
Oh.
This is a cartoon made by the same people who made Futurama and Simpsons.
Oh. Okay. I was like
So
Futurama.
it's not going to get its resurgence from that. No, absolutely not. But that is the most recent version of a Silky that I have known. I will say the most recent version of a Silky that I have actually heard about in history was distant, like ancient England.
Yeah.
Was one of the kings married a Silky, and that's what cursed their family line.
Oh. I had not heard about that story. Interesting. Well, there is a very common flow to the way that these stories go with the Selkies, and it's Selkie, Selkies, and they're seal men and women. And what happens is they spend most of their time in the waterways, usually the seas or the oceans, and they come upon land to rest, and they take off their pelts and become human. And the pelts are magical. And if the pelt is hidden away from them, then they can never return to the sea and they're trapped on land. Well, what usually happened in the stories was a man spies a woman who is just uncommonly beautiful and he instantly wants her as his wife. So to have her, he steals her pelt and forces her to become his bride. And there's usually children that come from these unions. And after many years of basically being in captivity and being forced to live with a man that she doesn't actually love, some way, somehow, her pelt is discovered, usually by one of the children, and she instantly leaves. She feels a little bit heartbroken to leave her children, but that's her nature. That's who she was, and she was forced in a situation that wasn't her choice, and she leaves. And occasionally, not for the sake of the man, but usually for the sake of the children, she'll come back again to visit with the children and see them, but mostly she stays away. There's a couple of different details that I unearthed that I thought were extremely interesting. So one of them was that there is this idea that and this is not my idea. This can be, you can read this. There's a Gaelic historian named John Macaulay. And he thinks that the Selkie stories are actually a very, very old form of oral tradition. He thinks that for thousands of years, Eskimo-type kayakers who wore sealskin coats in canoes were traveling down from up north, down through Scotland from the remote Arctic Norway. These were Sami people. These are some of our ancestors, Cameron. They're from the Finnish Laplander type Sami people, and they were indigenous peoples who lived very similarly to Alaskan people. They are called the Sea Sami, and they're now extinct. They were a nomadic tribe of hunter-gatherers that used Eskimo kayaks and Eskimo-type technology to hunt and fish. And he thinks that what must have happened is that people in Scotland would be watching these kayakers come down the riverways, and what it basically looked like is this boat that's submerged under the water. So what the people are seeing is this human-looking form that's submerged halfway through the water, making their way through the water, and they look like these half seal, half people. And every 8 hours or so, you have to get out of the water and allow the boat to sort of dry off. And these people, so they would get onto rocks, they'd let their boats dry out, and then they would get back in the water. And there's this idea that maybe the pelts that we're talking about are actually like their water gear or this kayak. And it transformed into this crazy story about these Selkie people, the mermaids, these creatures that were actually, maybe they were actually real people just from a very long way away who had a different culture and a way of doing things that was so unfamiliar, it created this fantastical story. I thought that was really cool. Like, wow, that's neat. I really liked that story, or that idea. But then there's this other, more ominous not so innocent and interesting story or idea. And this actually is from a discussion forum from the Fortean Times. And okay, this was a comment made by someone named Packshad, Packshad. And they said, I'll read their comment in entirety and see what you think about this. But I think that it's actually really interesting. So, from the discussion forum of the Fortean Times. Selkies are a kind of shapeshifter that are seals and become human-like when removing their skins. They can be bound to a person if the skin is hidden. We talked about that, right? They said, a typical story is of a man that finds a female Selkie on a beach and hides her skin to capture her as his wife. Eventually, the Selkie finds her skin and goes back to the sea to never be seen again, leaving her quote-unquote husband and children behind. This person says, like I said, children often result from this union. These may have webbed hands, a medical condition known as syndactyly, whatever. And they say now, with this small introduction, here's the point that I actually want to make. There's a strong opinion nowadays that changeling stories became popular as a justification for infanticide of children with birth defects. So you would kill a baby that had a birth defect or had something wrong with them, and you would say, well, it was a changeling, and then you'd get away with it, right?
Well, what if...
Go ahead. Wait.
What
I'm
if...
not finished.
Okay.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
This person says, I am thinking of Selkies as something like that, except for it's the wives with defective children or not. So the man would basically say, after he got finished murdering her for whatever reason, well, she was a Selkie and ran away back to the sea. Now she's sleeping with the fish. And that's the end of the comment. There you go.
Mafia style.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe I'm not going to discount that. My point was going to be is evolution happens. What if in these closed cultures, these closed colonies of people, they were selected for their most evolutionary opportune traits? And what if the best swimmers were the ones that were being selected for?
Mm-hmm.
What if these webbed feet were actually common in their culture and they were killing these kids because, they had these traits that were actually common amongst their people?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're all dead, so we can't really tell. But yeah, soft tissue doesn't preserve like it does.
Right. That's an interesting idea.
What if people were evolving?
Yeah, in these small communities, and then their community died out eventually because it just didn't survive the Darwin test.
These seafaring people. I mean, whales did it. What if people were doing that?
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting idea. That's what this
That's
podcast
wild.
is all about. Crazy
What
ideas
if we
like
hadn't done that?
Yeah, I know.
Whole nother race of water people that could survive in 70% of the world's biome.
What if they evolved so much that they don't need to come up for air anymore? What if they're still alive down there?
What if they're mermaids?
What if they are? Maybe. Could be. Maybe that's where mermaids come from. That's an idea. That's crazy.
I do think they would have washed up on shore eventually because they wouldn't be very deep-dwelling people.
Who's to say that they aren't? But who says? Why? Why not? What if they evolved? We've got all kinds of crazy
That would have been
fish down there.
thousands of years.
Who says that they didn't do that, though? This is a
That would have taken so
situation.
long. Hypothetically, that would have taken so long for them to evolve to be able to survive in deep-dwelling places where their bodies won't wash ashore.
How long do you think it takes?
I mean, more than 2,000 years. What are we talking about, like 10,000 BC?
Yeah, we're talking about Sami people. That could have been 10,000 BC. We could have been, these are old stories that go back really far.
I have doubt, but I do think, what if that was an evolutionary trait? What if that was being selected for, is the official term, in their community? Mm-hmm. I do think those were the start of a new race of human.
Could be. I'm not going to say it wasn't because I don't know. And that sounds really interesting. It could be. All ideas are welcome here.
My two classes of archaeology, that's the lingo is selected for. Yeah, and that makes sense. It only takes like 3 generations of being selected for you to get something like webbed feet.
Mm-hmm. Something to become. What does it become? Like autosomal dominant?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who's to say? It's really interesting. And who is to say that there wasn't a branch of humanity that went back into the water hundreds of thousands of years ago? We don't know.
And in that case, they could be deep welling, and that would be wild.
And who else is to say that if we had a select group of people who are water dwellers who went back 10,000 years ago? I mean, we're talking about the same idea that we had with Bigfoot, right? Who is to say they're not burying their own? What death rituals might they have that would prevent their bodies from washing to shore? Who's to say that we would actually see corpses?
Well, their bones would have to be denser than the water.
It would, unless they're being put under rock or something in the water.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, we don't know. If those people exist, any kind of thing could happen. So from there, from the Selkies, that's really all I had about the Selkies. I don't know if you had much more to add, but
not again, really. But my joke actually. So the Futurama, it's called Fantasia. No, it's called Disenchanted, and he hid her bear costume, her bear skin. Yeah,
to keep her as a human.
He kept her as a human, and then eventually he felt bad because he actually loved her, and he gave her back her bear skin.
Aww.
And their child was a bear that could talk.
Oh, really? I've never heard about the show. Is this still
it's
on
funny.
the air?
I think they're still making episodes, but it kind of. I think it was only like 4 or 5 seasons long.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never heard.
Until they kind of like unofficially ended it.
Well, all right. Well, I have a couple of more notes. We are into the last few pages of my 25 pages of notes, but we did say we were going to start putting time limits on our episodes. So what I have to talk about from here are the Kelpies, which is not human at all. The Bunyip, also not human at all, more in the category of cryptid. And then this Awizotl, which is also kind of more in the category of cryptid. And I have another story, which is hard to know where to place it. I think I'll read the story, and then maybe it's time to close the episode. What do you think?
You might be right. However, I do think we should go over each one of these a little bit more in depth. The La Llorona, we barely even touched.
You
and
really
there
feel
is
like that?
so much. Yeah, there is so much we can go over with that one.
Oh, you mean doing like an episode on each specific type? And doing
exactly.
Like a really deep... I see. I could be into that. I could totally be into that. Yeah. There's
because we explained what they are, but we haven't really gone over the stories about them. And that country, Mexico and South, it's not a country, so Mexico and South America, the whole continent, they have so many stories about La Llorona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could totally do it. That would be really fun, actually. And I'm hoping that, we're doing these, like right now, we're getting into the categories. I'm hoping that we get deeper and deeper and deeper and are able to find more stuff and really get into deep details about all of these. I think that would be really cool. It would be really cool to go into really deep depth on the Kappa, our little friend, the anus soul stealer.
Oh my God, I don't want to. I think that'd be a good episode, but I don't want to talk about uncomfortable.
I just think, there's so many really interesting things out there. And the thing is, my research was not done. I ran out of time. There are more things out there that would fit this category. So I think it's just an endless well. I am very excited, though, because as I started to do this research, I started to come across some of what I'm calling non-water entities that are similar. They're predatory female spirits that don't have anything really to do with water. One of them is deer women. Another one is the banshee. There's another one from Malaysia called the Pontianak. She's a man-eating she-demon. There's some really neat stuff out there, and I'd like to continue episode 3 of just the non-water ones, but there were so many water ones that I didn't even talk about. Did we talk about this in the first episode? There's Nixies, Asparus, the Wasserman type.
You mentioned You mentioned them. You didn't actually talk about them, but you mentioned it.
No. And there's just so much that I didn't even get to do research on. Water nymphs, naiads, the Augishk.
To keep a balance, we should go over like male entity demons, but I do think that there's just a wealth of. I think it's more interesting the female ones. I personally do.
It's harder to find the male ones. I actually had that thought. We should do. I was like, we did this female one. We should do one that's male. And then I was like, what male spirits are there? And when I went and looked, I couldn't find a whole heck of a lot. It actually made me feel like, man, this feminism, like hardcore feminism, because I'm not against feminism, but like hardcore feminism, like really, right? Like, where's all the male ghosts, man? Where's the male?
Okay, so there
spirits?
is the incubus. There is the male Lilum. Those exist. Those were existing in the same period. They were male or female when they first came about, and then they became female. We're talking about any war deity.
Okay.
My God, am I really drawing a blank?
I mean, come on.
There's
I could tell you
dozens of them. Okay.
You've got incubus, but you've also got succubus.
What about the skinwalkers and
Oh, that's true. Those are mostly men, right?
What is
Wendigo.
it called?
I know you said Wendigo. I think we talked about that in the first episode too. And I know I said like there's dogmen. Are there female dogmen out there, or are they all male?
Yeah, they are.
Mothman. What's another one that gets talked about a lot?
It's funny though that the men characters are standalone figures.
Right.
They're not like a race of being.
But are they? I think dogmen are considered a race, and Mothmen might also be considered a race.
But dogmen are female too.
Who's ever seen a female dogman?
They're usually indistinguishable because they don't have breasts.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I didn't know that detail. I don't know. I just think it's really interesting that... Here's what I think is interesting is that these female predatory spirits pretty much exist to bedevil men. They don't really go after women so much in any of the stories. They're there because they're avenging themselves or because they're there to like punish men. And it's interesting to me that that is only a female archetype. Like, there is no equivalent male archetype. So, like, the Dogman, the god of war, or these demons of war or whatever, the Lilum, like, the succubus, the succubus fits. But, incubus. They don't exist to bedevil women and punish women and lure women away.
Incubus
Where's the equivalent? That's the only one, though. Where's the equivalent?
That's literally the only one.
Group of spirits that does that for women.
The incubus is the fuckboy of all demons. I will tell you that. Like, holy shit. Have you heard the stories of the incubus? Literally, they're just trying to sleep with you. And if you fall for it, then obviously you're of poor moral character.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, where are they? And I have to wonder, is that because men are so fucked up and women are so... Like, is it because, like, I'm going to take it out of feminism altogether. Is it because women are more likely to be abused and meet poorer ends than men? And that these spirits are created more frequently?
It could be. It seems like that's the origin story of most of these spirits. Right? I will say, too, though, is how often are women out exploring?
Yeah.
And then for those stories, how often do they have mythological endings that are so mysterious? There were two women that went exploring in South America.
Okay. They
disappeared, and nobody could ever figure out what happened to them. They found a shoe and their phone and a backpack.
I heard that story.
And in their phone, they found 16 different calls to 911 that were not connected. They found something like 51 or 70 pictures that were just of random things. They speculated they were using the flash to try to see in the dark.
Oh, right. I do remember that.
That seems like a very mythological end. It seems like that could have been something supernatural.
I heard a really good deep dive on that. I think it was on the podcast Heart Starts Pounding. It
But
was really sad. Yeah, and it's so mysterious.
nobody ever put anything to that.
Yeah, that could
You know,
be.
women go missing, but it's never like a supernatural occurrence.
Right.
It's
It's
just
never
mysterious. It's assumed that somebody attacked them.
and killed them. Yeah, that's true. So maybe there are these masculine spirits that prey on women, but we don't know them because it's just assumed a human person killed them. Interesting. That's an interesting idea, Cameron. I like that. So I think it's time to wrap it up, but I want to wrap it up with one last story. This one is called The River Monster Spirit or Entity in Trinity River. And this is from Reddit. And so the original poster says, "Hello, I'm not sure what it's called, but growing up we were warned of the river spirit in the Trinity." And I believe this is in Spain. I want to say Madrid, but I don't recall
Spain has some interesting ones.
I don't recall precisely. But anyway, so the river spirit in the Trinity and how it was better to wait to swim till someone had died. I know that there is a semi-similar spirit referred to in some native stories from around this area. Does anyone know the name or know where to find further information? Then Poppins 101 says, well, the local Native Americans believe such a serpent exists, and it's called the Camas. It has been seen in the Klamath Trinity watersheds. Trinity must be in the United States or somewhere in the America somewhere then. I was wrong. It's talked about in the Hoopa Project by David Paulides. One hit came up on a search. A Loch Ness Monster type of creature was seen in a dorsal view moving above the water on the Trinity River behind Trinity Valley Farms off of Highway 96. And this person goes on to say many native elders advise their families not to swim in the Trinity River until after July 1st or during ceremonial dance times. Now here's the final story, and I think it pulls it all together. So this person, and their name is QuantXTN Op. So QUANTXTNAUP. Here it goes. I recently had an experience that still sends shivers down my spine when I think about it. An encounter so bizarre and so vivid that it has forever changed my perception of the Trinity River. Please bear with me as I share this spine-chilling experience with you. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when I decided to take a solitary stroll along the banks of the majestic Trinity River. I've always found the river to be an enchanting place, its waters carrying stories from times long past. Little did I know, the river had a tale waiting for me that day, one that I wouldn't easily forget. As the sun hung low in the sky, painting the horizon in hues of deep crimson and gold, I felt an uneasy stillness in the air. The kind of silence that predates something profound. The birds seemed to have stopped chirping, and the gentle rustle of leaves was conspicuously absent. It felt as though time itself had paused, allowing the river and I a moment of solitude. Suddenly, a cool breeze swept across the landscape, sending ripples across the water's surface. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing upright as though responding to an unseen presence. It was then that I heard it, a soft, lilting melody that seemed to emanate from the depths of the river itself. Mesmerized, I followed the ethereal music, which guided me to a secluded spot where the riverbed meets an overhang of gnarled roots and mossy rocks. As I approached, the air grew colder, and a dense fog began to form around the river, swallowing the fading daylight. And there, amidst the mist, I saw her, a figure that seemed to be both part of the river and apart from it. She was an entity of flowing waters and shimmering scales, her form constantly changing, merging with the currents and the swirling fog. Her eyes held the depth of the river, an infinite abyss that promised both solace and despair. She sang a song that was both haunting and beautiful, a melody that echoed the mournful cries and joyful songs of the river's long history, a song that spoke of love lost, of battles fought, and of the eternal dance between life and death. I could feel her presence enveloping me, the water's entity reaching out with tendrils of mist, caressing my face with a touch as soft as silk and as cold as the river's depths. Time seemed to lose its meaning as I stood there, transfixed by the river's spirit, a creature of unfathomable beauty and melancholy. But as quickly as she appeared, she vanished, leaving me alone on the riverbank, the fog lifting and the golden rays of the setting sun breaking through the canopy of trees. As I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, I realized that the river had shared with me a glimpse of its soul, a fleeting encounter with an entity as ancient and mysterious as the river itself. To this day, the memory of that encounter haunts me, a beautiful yet chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie just beyond the realm of our understanding. The Trinity River, with its quiet beauty and enigmatic presence, holds secrets that are both wonderful and terrifying, a realm where spirits dwell, singing their songs of sorrow and joy, waiting for the next passerby to share their tales. And so I share this story with you, a glimpse into the mystic world that exists alongside our own, hidden in plain sight. A world where river spirits dance in the twilight, weaving tales of love and loss, of beauty and despair. Remember, the next time you find yourself walking along the banks of the Trinity River, pause for a moment and listen closely. You might just hear the soft, lilting melody of the river's song, a song that carries the weight of centuries, the whispers of spirits that dwell in its depths, waiting to share their stories with those willing to listen. Stay curious and respect the unseen worlds that surround us, for they hold stories beyond our wildest imagination.
So with that, my thought is, just because it was fictional, does it make it untrue?
This person at least says that it's not fictional, and it's hard to say. It was so well written. I mean, they definitely spent a lot of time putting that together. That didn't feel like a recounting. That felt more like a story. But who's to say? Maybe it was true. But I agree with the sentiment.
I still think it's true.
Yeah.
I still think, even if it was completely fabricated, the sentiment is real.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We're talking about entities that have existed long before we have. And who knows what truly they want? Who knows what truly they are? But they live there, and it's for us to be curious, just as they say, and to be open to those experiences. It's the only way we'll ever come close to the truth. That was a good story.
We live in the world. We are not the world.
Yeah.
Respect your surroundings.
Yep. Respect, man. Well, I think that's the end of my water dwelling. There was a couple more that we didn't talk about, like I said, but we could do another cryptid episode and include those there. And
I mean, largely we're just getting started. So honestly, I think we can go more into each one of these.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's it for part 2 of Sirens. And thank you for hanging with us. I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm quite proud of our sound quality this time. These last 2 episodes, I think, are going to end up being perfect. As far as
we
sound
kind of
quality.
started to get it.
We're starting to get it. And I'm excited for how this is going to sound after editing. I think that it's going to be a good one. I think these were really good. All right. I think I'm done. Cameron?
Love You Murderers.
Yeah,
Check out our
Love You
website.
Murderers.
I will have that up and running by the time these are aired.
Really? Oh, that's so exciting. And don't forget to email us at wanderingcrowpodcast@gmail.com. I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see the website, dude. That's going to be amazing.
I just have a couple more things to do, and then I'm going to send it to you
Yay!
to check off on.
Okay.
But
I had no idea that you actually were actually... I thought you were so busy with work. I didn't know how much progress had been made. That is so cool. I'm really excited about that. All right. Yay. Okay. Well, that's a fun note to land on. All right, murderers. Again, we love you so much, and we will see you next time on
Bye.
the
Wandering
Crow. Almost. We almost.
Let's do that again. Let's do that again.
Okay.
We'll see you next time
On The Wandering
Cameron.
Crow. Or
This is Mandy.
Nope, we messed it up. Okay.
One more time.
Okay.
You do the sentence. You do.
All
you
right.
do.
Well, we love you, murderers. See you next time.
Love you.
I don't know what we're doing.
Are we doing our names first and then the Wandering Crow, or are we doing the Wandering Crow?
We can do our names first. I was going to say, love you, murderers. See you next time.
I said it same time as you.
Okay. See you next time. This is Mandy. Do we need to say our names again?
Wouldn't hurt.
All right. Okay, then. All right. So we say that we love them, then we say our names, and then we say, see you next time on the Wandering Crow?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I think if I'm editing this one, I'm leaving all of this. This is funny. So, all right, murderers, we love you so much.
Love you, murderers.
This is Mandy.
This is Cameron.
And we'll see you next time on The Wandering Crow.
Bye.
You ready to stop it?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.